Welcome to the Sykes & Company PA video blog featuring Ollin Sykes.
Well, I would suggest that potential pharmacists who are looking to buy a pharmacy do structure together some plan of action with respect to what their action items are in doing their due diligence to look at a potential pharmacy acquisition candidate. And the first thing on that list is obviously we strongly suggest you attend the NCPA ownership workshop, which is given 3 times a year. It's sponsored by McKesson, presented by the NCPA. It's the premier workshop that is given over the course of the year to new potential ownership candidates, and it provides within that show an opportunity. Within that 2.5-day workshop, an opportunity to build an actual business financial plan model, to talk about the marketing, the accounting, the tax, the legal, all the issues that are critical, OTC. Any and everything that you need to be aware of taking a look at a potential acquisition situation and or startup. So it's kind of an all-inclusive, you must do type of situation. I don't know how many times I get calls in here. Of course, folks are talking about starting up a pharmacy or buying a pharmacy. The first question I ask them is, have you been to the NCPA ownership workshop? And if they haven't, then I know I got to cover a lot more information with them versus if they've been there, they come away with volumes of information, literally, that they can put in actual practice and use to assist them and their advisors in this process. But buying a pharmacy business plan of action / due diligence is an extraordinarily important thing that needs to be put in place. And there are a number of professionals out in the field that can help you in this regard. You can do some Google searches and find some of those that are out there. Some of the major wholesalers and secondary wholesalers provide that type of help and assistance as well. Obviously, they're looking at keeping you in their fold. You need to be careful of that because they have a direct conflict of interest in that process. But I do recommend that you find somebody that you can depend that doesn't have a conflict of interest, if at all possible, that has a knowledge base and can assist you in putting together that plan of attack, plan of action, and due diligence list after you obtain the workshop certification that I think that you need before you begin that process.
Have you seen people go into buying a pharmacy without a plan, specifically maybe in family situations? And what happens when they don't have a plan?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, we see more of that than I'd like to. What happens depends on what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they've done versus what they haven't done, and it can be all over the table with respect to what occurs. But a lot of times they don't realize, for example, that it may take 3 to 6 months to get all the third-party approvals by using a PSAO or a GPO, a group purchasing organization. They don't realize perhaps that they have to go get Caremark, Express Scripts, Humana, Optima separately on their own, and the PSAO can't do that for third-party adjudicated claims in any kind of entities they're setting up or startups, or if they're purchasing assets, they have to do that on their own, although they can use a power of attorney to adjudicate claims for a period of time. There's just a lot of different issues in and around cash flow or lack thereof that if you don't set up, you may enter yourself into a lease commitment and have to start paying money months, and in some cases we've seen years ahead of when they can actually open the pharmacy, because you can't open a pharmacy until really you have your third-party billing capability in place. Otherwise, you're just turning away patients who will no longer come back ever to see you again. They'll sign the lease, then they call us. Say, oh, by the way, I've just signed a lease. I'm going to start a pharmacy. Oh, what's the lease terms? Oh, it's 10 years. How much a month? Oh, it's $6,000 a month. I said, do you realize how much money you got to generate in revenue to be able to pay $6,000 a month? And they kind of kick back and say, well, I never really thought about it.
Thank you for joining us today. If you want more information or have any questions, please feel free to contact Ollin directly.